Okay, folks, this video is going to cover the starting point for photo mechanic. We're going to look at some images on the card, make some decisions what we're going to do with those. Then we're going to ingest those images onto our hard drive, onto our laptop, and we're going to make a backup on our server at the same time. Then we're going to add some IPTC data, keywords, maybe a brief description here or there. Then we'll look at the ones, we'll go through them individually. We'll look at the ones that we want to email, and then we'll tag them, and then we'll email them. So it's kind of the basics of photo mechanic from a good beginner starting point. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at the images on our card. We've shot our shoot. We've come back into the office. We've plugged our card into a card reader of some sort, and now we need to pull them up in Photo Mechanic. So here's our card. So let's go ahead and open up the contact sheet. So here's the photos that we took. Okay, so we've got them laid out here. This is all the photos off of the card. Let's even make this a little smaller so we can see it. We have some obvious ones that failed that are blurry, so we'll take a look at how to get rid of those. I am of the school that I don't want these photos. There's no reason for me to keep these photos, so I'm not going to even bother with tagging them or moving them to my backup server. And this is something that's a personal preference. It all really depends on how valuable these photos are to you. If this is a shoot for a client, I would go ahead and copy everything over to the server right out the gate. But since this is just a few photos that I shot out at a ranch out here in eastern Colorado, I'm going to go ahead and delete the ones that I know that I'm never going to use. So I'm just using the control key and the mouse, and I'm selecting the ones that are bad. If I hold the control key down and select each one, it'll select them individually. It's very similar to Windows. And I believe if you're on the Mac, it's Command select at the same time. So it looks like I have 4 images right here. This is a good way to tell, did you select all of them or not. So I have 4 images here that I've selected that I know are bad. So I'm going to go ahead and right click these and delete them. Delete selected photos. Are you sure? There's 4 of them. Always make sure your count's correct. Say OK. So the 4 are bad. They're off. They're gone. So the next step here is preparing the IPTC data stationary so that we can tag this with our copyright information, location information, keywords, and maybe a brief description. So I'm going to open up Image. I'm going to go to IPTC stationary pad. So here's my stationary pad. Now this has the information from the last shoot in, and you can also open a default. Down here you can hit load or save. So you can hit load and you can open up your default stationary pad. A couple of things to note here. I always make sure that I fill everything out. If this is going to Flickr or if it's going to your friends, all this information is going to be tagged, and most third-party applications will read this information because it's actually embedded into the image. So we've got our default. So our location was Chico Basin Ranch. It looks like everything else is here. All the copyrights are correct. Address, phone numbers, the whole 9 yards. I like that. Now, these are variables, and we'll talk about variables in another video. But in short, what this is going to do is it's going to put all of my EXIF camera data into my IPTC data field so that I can quickly see what my camera settings were. These fields can be used for whatever you want. If you're doing this for a business, they may want you to do specific stuff. So let's go ahead and tag this with some keywords. We'll do CBR, Chico Basin. We'll call this ponds, horses, cowboys. You don't have to go crazy here. Just keep it simple and then give this a basic description of what's going on. So this is a day at the ranch. Now we will later go through and select specific images and tag them just a little bit differently. I recommend that you put in a headline as well for the first go round, I'm going to put in the same thing as the caption, because I'm going to go back and individually caption these later if I'm going to use them for, say, an email or something like that. But the headline works really well. That's a field that Flickr will pick up. Flickr will pick up the caption as the description, headline as the image title, and keywords are going to show up as tags. And then all this other data is going to be under more data. So it's really good to have this. So we'll go ahead and close the stationery. We could apply it now, but if we close it, we're going to apply this on ingest, and it's a little bit faster of a process. Because right now, you got to remember, all of our cards, all of our images are still on the card, and we really don't want to edit the images on the card. We want to edit them as they're coming in. So let's go ahead and close this. So now, all we have to do is ingest. And exactly what is ingest? That means it's going to take the images off the card and it's going to put them somewhere. Okay, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ingest from the card. I'm going to put a copy on my laptop. And I'm going to go ahead and have the ingest feature put a copy on my server. Now, that backup copy can be anything from your server computer, a network drive, a USB drive, or even just a second subfolder on your laptop. But I highly recommend that you do make a backup copy. So let's just take this in order. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to select what we want to ingest. We're going to select the whole card. If you want, you can select specific folders on the card. That way, if you're using your camera to set folders for each individual shoot, you can go get just the files that are in each folder. Personally, if I'm going from location to location, I'll just switch cards. That way, I have a fresh card for each shoot. The next thing you want to look at is the destination. Where is this going to go? I have a primary root directory where I keep all of my current projects. It's underneath my library called Current Projects, so that's where I'll put this. And then I'm going to go ahead and have this put a backup using the secondary. I'm going to set it on my digital images, which is on my network. This is on my server. This is different from my laptop. This is where all my image archives are. This is where every image that I've shot goes as my backup. And then this is also backed up to an external drive. So I have two of these. So we're going to select the image archive 2009, the D700. That's what we shot these with. Copy locked and unlocked photos. That way, if there's locked photos on the camera, it'll still copy them over. We want RAW and JPEG if you shoot in both. We're going to apply using the global IPTC stationary pad that we edited earlier. We're going to apply that to every image that gets sent in. We're going to rename the photo. This variable, which you can pull from here, this variable is the file name. I'm going to go ahead and add in the body that I used to shoot with. And the file name already has some formatting to it. I've set up my D700 as well as my P6000, my D80, my D200. I've set them all up to shoot so that I know if I'm in the casual bank, the landscape bank, the sports bank, and so on. So I have a naming convention happening at the body. I want to preserve that when it comes over. But I do need to tag it with the camera body. That way I don't have any files trying to overwrite each other. We're going to open a contact sheet when this is done. In the source directory, we're going to ignore and we're going to copy all the photos into the same destination. That means it doesn't really matter how the folders on the card are set up. We're just going to copy them all out of there and we're going to put them into one folder, both at the primary and secondary destination. We're also going to put a folder underneath the folders that we selected up there, and this is where I put in the shoot name. In this case, that would be CBR for Chico Basin Ranch. We're not going to use any folder sequencing. Now, the next thing you need to do is you need to double check right here to make sure that everything's correct. Here's your primary, here's your secondary. This is the amount of files it's going to pull over. Do you want it to erase the source disks after ingest? You know, you can do that if you want. I'm a big fan of every time I pop a new card into the camera, I just format it. I have, knock on wood, I have yet to have a card fail because of this. I don't like deleting my images, so I don't even bother with that, and I don't care about unmounting afterwards. So now that we have all this set up the way we want it, we can go ahead and ingest. So this is going to copy all of the files off of the card and onto the two destinations that we've selected, and it's going to apply the IPTC data stationary pad to this as well. And as you can see, this is actually copying pretty quickly. Okay, now that we have all of our files off of our card, you can go ahead and unmount that if you want and set it aside. But all of our images now are both on our local library under CBR Shoot, and you can double check that by clicking under here. Look for CBR Shoot. There you go. And there's a backup on our backup drive, and you can double check that if you'd like by looking for your backup drive underneath the navigator. And we'll go to Digital Images, and we'll go to Image Archive, 2009, D700, and there's our CBR Shoot. So all of our images are in both places. Now these are our originals over here, so we don't mess with those. Let's go ahead and close that out. And here's the ones that we have locally. So this is our big concern right here, are the ones that we have locally. Okay, now from this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the shoot. We're going to look at a couple of images that we like. We're going to go ahead and tag them, and we're going to get ready and email them to our client so that they can get a instant gratification of what it is that we just did for them. That's what this little icon here is for, the magnifying glass. When you pull it up, another window comes up, and then you get to see each individual photo one at a time. This down here will give you the ability to do star ratings, while this over here will give you the ability to do color ratings. Now, we also have a thumbnail view of all of our images in our shoot. We have all of the EXIF data from our camera. We can do a little bit of cropping if we want to before we email it, and then we can look at zoom, and then you can also look at the histogram here if you wish. In this particular case, I like going ahead and expanding my image and getting rid of all of that collateral so that I can concentrate right on each photo and look at the details of the photo. Again, this is a preliminary run through, first pass if you will, and you can use the arrow keys or you can use the wheel on your mouse if you have one to scroll through each one of these. I particularly like this one, so I'm going to go ahead and rate it with 5 stars, and I'm going to set it good to use, and then go to the next one. And we'll just look at these, a couple of these at a time. I particularly like this one. It looks pretty nice. Good to use. Yes, we got cows here. And you can go through each individual of these. You can also do that from the contact sheet, which is right here. You can scroll through these and you can select the ones that you like by right-clicking and hit good to use, and you can click the star on each one of them. So I have 5 photos that I'm going to send this particular client. So now that I have all 5 of my photos, I want to filter on the ones that I want to send to my client. I'm going to do that by telling it I only want the 5 stars showing. So as soon as I click the 0, all the 0 stars disappear. There's my 5 photos that I selected. You can also do that with colors. And now these are ready to be emailed to my client. Well, there's one thing I want to mention here too. If you need to do a little bit of touch-up, you can. You can simply right-click an image and you can either hit Edit, and this will try to follow the operating system's editor of choice for the type of file this is. In this case, it's a NEF file, so it's going to open Capture NX. You can also set up Photo Mechanic to open alternate editors, and we'll leave that for another video. But in this case, I can send this right to Photoshop if I want to. But today, I'm okay with this. This is just a first run. This is just going to give the client some instant gratification of what it is that they have so that they can see what their shoot was today. Okay, so this is where the IPTC data comes into play. As you remember, on Ingest, we went ahead and applied a global sheet to this. And you can check that by looking at this icon right here, the I for information. And you can see that there's the basic caption, there's the headline, the basic keywords, and so on. And here's all of our other information. This is where I'm going to go through. Now that I've got the 5 that I've selected, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more information to this. There is a lot of power in this aspect of things, but that's going to be for a different video. Again, right now we're just covering the basic concept of getting your images off of your card, tagged, updated, and into the hands of your client. So give me a minute and let me make some updates here. You notice right here our EXIF data got inserted, kind of like that. What's nice here is this will let me save and go to the next image. We'll go ahead and save to the next image. There's a neat little feature here too. If you're in here and you want to preview this photo a little bit better, if you'll notice that when you mouse over this image and you click on it and hold the mouse key down, you get a bigger picture of it and you can actually see kind of a little bit more detail. We'll save, and this will be the last one. And we're done. So now we've tagged all of our photos. We have a description. All we have to do is select these guys and email them to our client. So hit Control A will select everything, or you can hold down the Control key, or you can hold down the Shift key, however you want to do it. It's all there. In Mac, it's the command. You guys know how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I'm going to select Send Selected Photos via Email, and the email dialog opens up. So I'm going to select large, 640 pixels. I'm going to leave the quality as high. You can select whatever size you want it to go. If you want it to go full size, you can. The two that I use is 640, which works pretty good for email. Another one that I like to use often is fit in a box, which is it'll decide how big I want it to do. I'll either do 800 or 1024, depends on what the need for the photo is. I like to make sure that everything's converted to sRGB. I shoot in sRGB and I edit in sRGB because that's the color space most printers have. I did not actually crop anything, so I do not need to apply any crop, but I will sharpen these images because it is going to shrink them down some. And the algorithms in Photomechanic are extremely good, so it does a really, really good job of sharpening. And I am going to preserve all of the EXIF data. I want to go ahead and leave the camera data in there. So who is my client? I'm going to send it to my client. I'm going to create a subject, and I usually put in the shoot name. So this would be CBR. And this is a place where I'm going to use a variable, and we'll touch on it here just a little bit. But there'll be a video later on down the road coming that we'll talk a little bit more about these. So we'll click variables, and what I'm looking for is the file name. So we'll hit close. File name. So what that's going to do is it's going to put CBR and the file name in the subject line. And now the body, I'm going to go ahead and put in description. And I'm going to use the caption that I just edited on every one of these photos. So there's the caption. And I'm going to go ahead and put the attachment in so that the recipient knows what file was attached and what file this came from. And again, we can just copy this right here because it's the file name again. And then I'm going to put in my signature. And that's it. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I create a separate email for each photo. And the reason that I want to do that is because these are still going to be pretty big. As you can see, this is 300K. And that's 640. So that's a small size. And it's still pretty good size because the quality's there. But I don't want to jam up somebody's mailbox or their mailbox server. The next thing I want to do is, in this particular case, I do not need to review these. But if you want to see each individual email before it actually goes out in Microsoft in Microsoft Outlook in this case, then go ahead and click that. But for today, we're just going to send it on its way. And off it goes. So it just processed all 5 of those emails, and it sent it off to me as an email. That's it. It's that simple. There's a variety of other things that you can do with these. You can print contact sheets if you want to, and you can edit them if you want to, and so on and so forth. But for the basics, that's it in a nutshell.